Come on and get in. Hey there, welcome to Michael on the Go, and I am your host, Michael Giannotti. The Cosmos, part 3 of 3, is the Catholic Church anti-science. So, you know, as I've said, you know, I've been watching this series, The Cosmos, watched it, it's been out, you can watch it. I'm sure they're doing replays still on TV. You can watch it online, I'll give you links. It is a great series following in the tradition of popularist science, where we take the complex, distill it down for you know, distribution to the masses. It's a grand tradition going back to early magazines like Popular Science and others, and then continuing with scientists today like Michio Kaku, Dr. Brian Greene, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Stephen Hawkins, and others who take these complex things in science and make it readily accessible by the masses. You know, we talked about how that by the very nature of distilling things down, you do lose a lot of the broader context. How we should take deGrasse Tyson's words to heart at the beginning of the series and keep an open mind and question everything. And then we took a look at an area that's presented in the series itself that we should be looking at and questioning and looking behind and seeing the pros and cons of string theory, brain theory, M theory, multiverse, etc. But now there is a piece that I wanted to bring out, one last thing that I think, you know, it's very important for Catholics and Christians to know, as well as non-believers. And it came up, and it kind of sets the tone where they kind of present the Catholic Church as being anti-science, and they do so in a cartoon segment. And I got to give Seth MacFarlane props. The guy's a producer. He does sci-fi flicks, and he, you know, he's a comedian. He's acted himself, and he sets up, using a cartoon scenario, sets up this Catholic monk who's being persecuted by the forces against science and truth and knowledge represented by the Catholic Church. And they have these dour-faced, brooding authorities in the church accusing him of heresy and eventually putting him at a stake and killing him. And it is true that this Catholic monk was condemned, put to the stake, and burned, something that the church readily admits was wrong. It was, that in and of itself contradicts the teachings of the church and was evil, does not represent the teachings of the church, and should not have been done. However, the whole story is not as it's presented in the cartoon. So again, question everything. So I did. I went ahead and I binged it. You can Google it, Yahoo it, whatever you care to do. But search, and I'll provide some links. You can go ahead and take a look. But the monk in question, while what was done to him was absolutely wrong, there is no excuse for it, he was not executed for his scientific beliefs. In point of fact, what he was tried for and convicted of was heresy in regards to his teachings around the nature of God, contradicting the church's teachings on the Trinity and some other areas. He was put to death for his religious beliefs, not for his scientific beliefs. That doesn't make it right, but it does kind of take the storyline that is a picture painted in the Cosmos and bring it into question. And this whole idea, is the Catholic Church against science? So I would say to you, no, it is not. And here's a couple of reasons why. Yes, we do hear of examples like this particular monk, or the classic one that's always trotted out there, Galileo. And Galileo, you know, questioning this, you know, idea of the Earth being the center of the solar system and the universe, that in fact the sun is the center of the universe, of the solar system, and the solar system is part of a greater universe. Well, those things, if you look at the Catholic Church's history, and you got to look at the total history of it, because the Catholic Church is, number one, a very large organization. It is the largest faith organization, religion in the world today, and it has been for not just decades, not just for years, not just for decades, not just for centuries, but for millennia, thousands of years. And whenever you have a large organization with bureaucracy spread throughout, you will have abuses and things that are wrong that have been committed. But I would submit to you that those incidences are the aberration. They are the exception and not the rule. And here's some evidence I would give to the contrary. First off, going back to Galileo, Copernicus, to this monk himself and contemporaries of that time, where were they educated? How did they get their education around mathematics, the sciences, etc.? They got them from universities. Universities founded by the Catholic Church. They got it from books. Books that were preserved over the centuries after the fall of the Roman Empire, when barbarism and superstition and all that were rampant. How were those books and how was all that learning preserved when, you know, people looked at education and all that with distrust? It was preserved by Catholic monks sitting in monasteries, painstakingly by candlelight, transcribing and making copies of those books, of the classics, of the writings of the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, and others that were considered knowledge, valuable knowledge, painstakingly maintained by the Catholic Church, who then gave rise to universities where they taught those same teachings to people like Galileo, this monk, and others. It was the Catholic Church that preserved that and brought that. When we had the explosion of the Renaissance and all the learning and things that took place as a result of it, when we hear of Da Vinci and others, where were all those writings and teachings coming from? The church. So, you know, this idea that the church was anti-science, just not the case. Now, was there conflict between members within the church and certain elements with science and advancement? Absolutely. There's always that. I mean, I talked about how there's a struggle today in the scientific community between those who adhere to traditional empirical science and those who would change things to be more of a mathematical, abstract concept of science and view that as science, you know, when others would say, no, that's philosophy. There's always ongoing struggles in the pursuit of truth. But what we see is that the Catholic Church has actually given rise to it. I'm going to provide you a list of a number of priests, just Catholic priests, who have significantly advanced the field of science over the years, especially in the last 200, including something that's talked about on a recurring basis in this series, the Big Bang Theory, which did not come about from, as was popularized, a certain scientist called Hubble, but of which you may have heard of the telescope, Hubble, right? The space-based telescope called the Hubble. But in fact, was brought about by a Catholic priest, a Jesuit, who wrote about it, wrote it up and proposed it 2 years prior to Hubble's writings. In fact, he was a contemporary and a colleague and a ready corresponder with Einstein, Hubble, and others. And there are many others. I'll give you links to those as well. So the Catholic Church readily contributing to science. More recently, if you look at, you know, looking at Pope Benedict, Pope John Paul II, Pope Paul VI, we've had established yearly congregations where they invite the top physicists from around the world to come and talk about advances in science and what does that mean, because as the church looks at it, again, the science seeks to explain what and how. How does something happen? What's making that take place? What is it? How does it happen? Faith and religion seeks to explain the why, the meaning of why things, the deeper meaning. Now, there are many scientists who would say there's no meaning behind any of this. It just is. That's where there would be conflicts. But again, not all scientists feel that way. And I'll give you the links to a number of noted physicists and engineers and others who would dispute that. So, you know, there is ready dispute and disagreement within the scientific community around that. It's not just a simple science and faith are diametrically opposed. So, you know, whenever you see stuff like that and hear it, question it. Go ahead, look up the actual stories, and then do broader research. And I think you'll be surprised. that there does not need to be. Now, are there certain elements, certain religious elements that push aside? Wow, we are going by a Ferrari that is off the charts. But are there certain elements in faith, etc., that, you know, there's a small group within the United States, you know, with evangelical groups that push aside and say, oh no, the Big Bang, it didn't happen, and they teach creationism as literal interpretation of the story of creation. Well, you know, the Catholic Church, who actually brought about the Bible as we know it, would say that that's not the case. And in fact, many statements, and I'll include some of those by recent popes, talking about how that's, you know, that would be naive and childish. So again, the church is not anti-science. The church thinks that science and faith go hand in hand. Science helps us. It's like iron and steel, right? Refining each other as we learn more and grow. You know, things are not static. We don't know everything now, and you know, it would be arrogant to think that we did. But it's, you know, amazing that they can go hand in hand, and they should. So the Catholic Church, no, it's not against science. It embraces science. But again, keep in mind there are struggles and disagreements within the scientific community itself over what constitutes science and what constitutes philosophy. And certainly there's room for discussion, argument, and disagreement. But the two are not diametrically opposed, and the Catholic Church is not anti-science. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I thought that was kind of misleading in the video series. Apart from that, though, I gotta say, you know, I've pointed out a couple things that you need to question and stuff in this series, but let me close by saying this. The series Cosmos, you know, as an example of popularist science, getting people excited, bringing up things that you should absolutely. Should you watch it? Absolutely. Should you be aware of some things to talk about with your kids, friends, be able to discuss with others? You know, if they bring things up, should you know the truth behind them? Absolutely as well. So, you know, the series is great. I give it a thumbs up, or 2 thumbs up. Watch it. It's in the great tradition of others, like some of the stuff by Michio Kaku, as well as one of my all-time favorites, The Elegant Universe by Dr. Brian Greene. You should watch these things. You should get excited, learn more. The more you know about truth and fact, the better armed you are in life, the more awesome everything around us appears. I mean, it's incredible. But again, always take the opening of this series, The Cosmos, to heart. Keep an open mind and question everything, including questioning those things brought to you in a method of popularism that may omit some things by necessity, sometimes by design, to express an opinion, as you know, and commingle it with scientific fact. But look behind the scenes. You can judge for yourself, right? That's the whole beauty of it. Keep an open mind, question everything, look up and research yourself. Always look at both sides and then weigh the facts yourselves. God gave you a mind, use it. Don't set it aside. With that, this is Michael on the Go, Catholic Family Man Edition, saying watch the series Cosmos, keep an open mind, question everything, including the series, things that are brought up, and then look for facts so that you're armed with them. Then you have a great day, take care, and as always, God bless. Ciao.